Tansei, Kwe, Wachi, Shelley Lynn Nitigason, Vicky Lynn Nitigason, Kisiwatuento Tinis Kwayu Nitigason. Thank you so much for having me here. It is an immense honor to welcome you as the co-chair of the network for Montreal. I am blessed to have a blessing from the local peoples. And as far as immigration goes and the work that you're doing, I thank all of you for the time and the energy that you dedicate to that. Myself, I identify as Cree Métis. I'm an adoptee from the 60s. And so my journey started out on the West Coast. I was born in New Westminster and assimilated. And I ended up growing up on Vancouver Island in the Cowichan. And Jean and I just had a short exchange, and she did a short stint of teaching and said to me, "Oh, did you go to Cow High?" And that's where I graduated from. So it was nice to make that connection. I quickly got myself out of there for self-preservation. It was a tough world to grow up in. And at the time, social services, the whole idea was assimilating the Native children into the fabric of the Canadian society. And I have some pretty harsh realities that I came from. And to be able to be here and to do the work that I do now is, if I sit and think more than 30 seconds, I get quite emotional because I think, wow, I left from there with a suitcase and $500 of Thomas Cook traveler's checks and a Quebecer. And I ended up out here for 3 weeks vacation, and it became my home. So on that note, I would really like to acknowledge this territory, and that's something that I do anywhere I travel. My work now has brought me around the world. I've been to Australia twice, to beautiful country there, and connected with the Aboriginal peoples and the survivors of the stolen generations. And I was in India last January, had been invited because the Afghan educators were interested in getting a Western Indigenous perspective on healing and how we can integrate our practices, our culture, our ceremonies and traditions, how we're able to do that. And that was an incredible experience, but I'm always just so honored and humbled to be able to see how all where I came from has brought me to this place. And as a very small child, now when I look back, I realize just how connected that child was, probably on a very spiritual level, to be able to get through the neglect and the violence and the abuses that I overcame. And I distinctly remember at one point thinking, this can't all be happening in vain. There must be some really good reasons why this is happening. And I knew then that I wanted to take my life at some point and make differences. And so I thank you again for being here. And I would ask you, as you're here for the conference, to just take time to reflect on the fact that we're on these sacred lands, these lands of the Kanien'kehá:ka. Montreal, we call it Tiohtià:ke in the Kanien'kehá:ka language. And it's our ancestors that, you know, they overcame cultural genocide. They've overcome immense challenges and violence for us to still be able to be here and to have clean waters and to have this land to walk on. And so just keep that in mind, and as you travel, it's always interesting. I always take a little bit of time before I'm going somewhere to find out who the traditional peoples are, who were the custodians of that land for millennia. And it makes the experience a little bit different. La reconnaissance territoriale. Alors, l'hôtel ici est situé en territoire autochtone non cédé. Nous reconnaissons la nation Kanien'kehá:ka comme gardienne des terres et des eaux sur lesquelles nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui. Tiohtià:ke, ou Montréal, est historiquement connu comme un lieu de rassemblement pour les nombreuses Premières Nations et aujourd'hui une population autochtone diversifiée, ainsi que d'autres peuples. C'est dans le respect, les liens avec le passé, le présent et l'avenir que nous reconnaissons les relations continues entre les peuples autochtones et les autres personnes de la communauté montréalaise. Alors, as the co-chair of the network of the Montreal Urban Aboriginal Community Strategy Network, it's always a mouthful. It's a wonderful thing to know that in the last statistics we have over 36,000 people in Montreal who identify as Indigenous. There are 11 nations in the province of Quebec, and there are over 55 communities that are vibrant, that are alive. And so Montreal is now known as a metropole of reconciliation. And for me, my new words, working with the students and in speaking and presenting and disrupting systems, because it's the systems that I speak to, those systems that are broken in many ways. I like to say with the students that we're talking about reconciliation. So what can we do? What can we pick up and what can we do? And all of those that are our allies, those are what I call our co-resistors, because there needs to be resistance in order to make the change. And so on that note, I say my existence is my resistance. And my daughter is the first in my family in a long line of people who graduated from Queen's University last week as an Indigenous student. And as we stood there in that prestigious campus, and the Queen's marketing photographer came up to us because they wanted to capture all the photos of diversity. And at first, I felt a little strange about that. But then when I went to look at the page and I saw the diversity and the colors and the families, I made peace with that and thought, what a beautiful mosaic that made. And as I walked into here today, I again had that same feeling in my heart. So I wish all of you a wonderful conference. I'm sorry I can't stay. I have to run off to another meeting, but welcome and enjoy your time. I'm going to do a Women's Honor song just to set some vibration in the room. And again, I wish you all well. That, thank you. I just want to give you a little bit of context, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time. So that song was gifted to me from my kukum, my spiritual grandmother, Barbara Hooper, who's now in Kingston, but was here in Montreal for many, many years. And she put my first drum in my hand, and luckily I had a skirt on. She couldn't see my knees knocking together, but I was sweating, and I thought, oh my goodness. And that was about 20 years ago, the same year that I reconnected with my biological family. So my healing journey in itself has been going on for about 25, 26 years. But then a few years ago, she gifted me with that song, and that's called Wildflower. And the Wildflower song is the women calling out to the children, and the children calling back to say that they're okay. And so I thought that was appropriate today, because when I was looking at the slide and knowing the work you're doing, when I saw those children all binned up in cages a few short months ago, all of those images that were shooting out, my heart was absolutely breaking. And so again, thank you for the work you're doing, for the differences you're making. And even though sometimes we get discouraged in this work because we don't necessarily always see that change that's happening, but it is. Consciousness is rising, and people are rising, and the youth are getting stronger, and they're not standing down anymore. They're standing up, and they're using their voices. So thank you. Miigwech. Nyawa.